Hey guys, it is April from Getting Hooked with It. I am like sitting down and doing a ton of hauls, and this is my historical fiction haul that I've gotten recently. I've gone insane. I don't even know how many books are here. Well over 10. Well over 10. So get yourself a cup of tea. Come and let's hang out and let's talk about like my true love in life. My true love in life. Historical fiction. So I need to start out with a book that I received courtesy of Simon & Schuster Canada. I was very eager to get The Room on Rue Amelie. Now, this is meant to be for people who like The Nightingale and also Lilac Girls. So when I read that, the little blurb, I knew that I wanted to read this. I wasn't a huge fan of The Nightingale, let me be honest. But I do love a good World War II novel. So this follows three storylines that kind of interweave. First, we follow Ruby Henderson Benoit. And I believe she's American who moves to Paris in 1939, and she's married this Frenchman named Marcel, and she's so excited. And then suddenly France falls to the Nazis, and her marriage really starts to crumble as a result of that. We also follow Charlotte Dacker, and she's an 11-year-old. And when the Germans come into France, suddenly the Jews are starting to wear the stars, and she just thinks like, oh, can't get any worse than this, and then obviously it really does. And then finally we follow Thomas Clark. He's in the British Air Force, and his plane goes down, and I don't know actually if he's captured or if he meets one of these women and they help him, but all of these storylines interweave, and it just sounds really interesting. It's by Kristen Harmel. I could go for something like this. I think specifically, if I'm being honest, in the spring. There is something about spring that makes me need to read World War II historical fiction. I don't know what it is, but it's my thing. So yes, that is The Room on Rue Amelie. Thank you so much to Simon & Schuster for sending it my way. I also found Victoria by Daisy Goodwin, and I have recently been thinking a lot about how much I wanted to read more about Victoria, and so I went into my library. I have several libraries that I go to just to look for books, and this was there, and I'm telling you, no one read this. This is not cracked. Nobody read it. It's flappy. It's flappy, and it's about Queen Victoria, who's someone that I had always admired, and then I've learned a little bit more about her, and now I'm like, I don't know if I admire her as much as I thought I did. So I'm very, very interested in reading her story. I've also been watching the PBS miniseries, and apparently it's based on this, I think. Oh, she's the creator and writer of the Masterpiece presentation. Daisy Goodwin is writing the PBS Masterpiece miniseries, and I think it's going into season 2 like in a hot second. Ooh, oh, that's interesting. Gonna read that. I feel like everyone has told me that I must read The Shoemaker's Wife by Adriana Trigiani. I am so sorry if I'm butchering that name, but I've heard very good things about this. And before I had heard anything about it, I had walked past this book so many times, and I'd taken it out and looked at it, and I think it's the colors of this. It is just phenomenally beautiful. The oranges just jump off the page, and I was really sold because Catherine Stockett from The Help has a little blurb on the back, and I loved The Help. But this takes place at the turn of the 20th century in the Italian Alps. And this follows Enza and Ciro, who they meet as teenagers. Now, Ciro catches the local priest in this like crazy scandal, and he's banished. Not the priest. Ciro is totally banished. he's sent to hide in America as an apprentice to a shoemaker in like Little Italy. Enza is kind of left behind, and circumstances make her also move to America. Then World War I happens, and I believe that their two storylines meet up again, and they meet one another again, and I think there might be a love story in here, which I am okay with right now, and it just sounds really, really good. So yeah, that's The Shoemaker's Wife. Looking forward to it. And then today, when I was going to all of my libraries and value villages and looking around for new books, I stumbled on another one by the same author, and this one is called All the Stars in the Heavens. And I don't know if Adriana Trigiani has a say in her covers and what those look like. If she does, she's doing one hell of a job. Look at this, my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful. I honestly just at first picked it up because of that, and then I was like, that name seems familiar. And this takes place in Hollywood in 1935, and we follow 21-year-old Loretta Young when she meets 34-year-old Clark Gable on the set of The Call of the Wild. So we follow their storyline, and I believe we also follow Sister Alda Dookie, and she has to leave a convent, and she actually becomes the secretary for Loretta Young. Interesting. I am very interested, and I think it's after Katie over at Life Between Words. She did a whole video on the kind of Hollywood-esque books that she was reading. She was reading a lot of biographies, so I don't know if that got me on a roll and got me thinking about this kind of period, but eager for this. I also found today The Women in the Castle by Jessica Shattuck, and this came out, I think, in 2017 spring-ish, and I've been wanting to read it ever since, and when I saw it, I had to get it. And this is about a widow. Her husband died during World War II. He was a part of the resistance, and he was part of this plan to assassinate Hitler. It did not go well. I think he died. And she made this promise to her husband that she would try to take care of all of the widows of the resistance. And so she goes back to her husband's castle, and she's bringing all of these women together. And this is about their friendship, I believe, and pulling together after grief. I mean, hello, resilience. I want to read this. I have wanted to read this one for a while, and I've kept passing it by and then not picked it up, and now I finally have. This is Annexed by Sharon Doger, and it's basically a retelling of Anne Frank's life from the perspective of a boy who was in love with her. And I just think it's going to break my heart into 10 million little pieces. I also need to read The Diary of Anne Frank. I don't know how it's possible that I haven't read that yet. Isn't that something you're supposed to read when you're like a teen or even like 11 or something? You're supposed to read that book, and I don't know how I just skipped that. I was probably reading The Babysitter's Club and like R.L. Stine when I should have been reading that. But I'll do it now, and then I will read this. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. This is going to be a long video, guys. I'm just going with it. I'm trying to rush through this, but it's very hard to. Next, I got The 12 Tribes of Hattie. I got this one while I was pregnant. I was in mama mode, and I'm hoping to be in mama mode again at some point, and I will read this then. This is about a woman's journey in 1923. She's 15, and she moves from Georgia to Philadelphia. And she has all of these dreams of what's going to happen to her life, but she marries this man who's just not very good to her. And she has twins that have great health issues that just a little bit of money could have prevented. And she has, I believe, 9 more children or 7 more children. And all of those children are craving their mother's attention and love. And what she's giving them instead is like, she's trying to prepare them for the tough world ahead. I think that this is written in a perspective where it shows this mother as being like a human being. She's not perfect. She's not imperfect. She's just a person. So I do want to read this. I am going to wait a little while, just because it's a little raw right now. This next one makes me so happy because I'm reading it right now, and oh, it's the Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. This is about a little girl who, her mother is very ill. Her mother is on her deathbed. Her father doesn't know what to do, essentially. And she's basically taken and brought to this home to prepare to become a geisha. And it is about her growing up in this kind of weird way where she doesn't really have a family anymore, and these people that she works for essentially are meant to become her family. She's even supposed to call certain people mother and grandmother and, you know, auntie, and this very strange life. This is beautifully written. I'm listening to this on audiobook right now, and I can't tell you, like, today I wrote this whole big laundry list of chores I needed to do, and I was very excited to do many of them just because I knew that I was going to be able to listen to this audiobook while I was doing it. That is how good this audiobook is. It's brilliant. Loving this. I also picked up Longbourn by Jo Baker. I already read this and I really enjoyed it. It's a bit strange. There's like highs and lows to this, but this is essentially a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it follows the servants in the house of Longbourn, where Elizabeth and Jane and Mary and all of the Bennets live, and we follow the servants and their experience in the house, and I personally really enjoyed it. I also picked up The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This, I mean, was so popular. I believe in the 90s, right? This was in the 90s? 2002. I thought it was the late 90s. But it was not. In this book, we follow Lily Owens. It's 1964. Her mother was murdered, and I believe that she witnessed it. And this is in South Carolina. And after, like, her stand-in mother, who is Black, Rosaline, insults 3 of these, like, incredibly racist people in their town who have, like, a lot of power in the town, they decide to just run, and they go to Tiburon, South Carolina, and they're taken in by this trio of sisters who are beekeeping sisters. And I don't know, it sounds very interesting. Tiny little book. I mean, this is, oh no, not too tiny, 300 pages, just a normal sized book. I've heard really good things. I think my mama loved this book, so I'm hoping I will too. Sorry if it's starting to get a little bit dark. The sun is starting to go down, but here we are. We're still here. The next book that I got is The Piano Teacher by Janice Y.K. Lee. This is set in 1942, and we follow this Englishman named Will, and he arrives in Hong Kong, and he falls completely in love with Trudy Liang, and she is a beautiful Eurasian socialite. And then World War II happens, and it just threatens their entire lives. And then we fast forward 10 years, and we follow Claire Pendleton, who also comes to Hong Kong, and she's hired by this wealthy family to teach their daughter piano. And she soon begins this affair with who? I have no idea exactly. And then she discovers her lover's like very tragic, devastating past that he's hiding. And I guess it's the unraveling of that past. I still don't know who it is though. Like, is it Will that she falls in love with and has the affair with? I don't know. But I'm hoping that it is good. It sounds really interesting. I have never read anything about like an English person going to Hong Kong or Asia, anywhere, and so I thought that would be interesting. We shall see. I'll let you know. This next one I really don't know that much about, and I apologize for that, but it's Tracy Chevalier's The Lady and the Unicorn, and this is historical fiction. Of course, this whole thing is historical fiction, duh, but this takes place in like 1490 in Paris. It starts there. I wish I knew more, but I don't. It says, a tour de force of history and imagination of The Lady and the Unicorn is Tracy Chevalier's answer to the mystery behind one of the art world's great masterpieces. So I'm guessing it's this tapestry? I don't know anything, clearly. If you know anything, please inform us all below, because I know nothing. Is anyone who ever says, I know nothing, or know nothing, you know nothing, I always think of Game of Thrones. You know nothing, Jon Snow. 5/4 of the Orange. This is by Joanne Harris, and she wrote Chocolat. I've also got that on my shelves and have never read it. But I've really wanted to read this, and I might want to read this first. Of course, this is a World War II book. When Framboise Simone returns to a small village on the banks of the Loire, the locals do not recognize her as the daughter of the infamous woman they hold responsible for tragedy during the German occupation years ago. But the past and present are inextricably intertwined, particularly in a scrapbook of recipes and memoirs that Framboise has inherited from her mother. And soon Framboise will realize that that journal also contains the key to the tragedy that indelibly marked that summer of her 9th year. I need to read this. I need to know what happened. I also picked up, actually I just grabbed it as soon as I saw it, Peace Like a River by Leif Anger. Katie from Life Between Words, she loves this book, and I know I will love this too. This follows a boy named Ruben. He is charged with murder, and he's on the run, and his whole family follows him. And I believe this is about the love of family. It's also meant to be quite spiritual, quite a spiritual read. So I'm really eager to read this. I'm so happy I have this on my shelves. I've been looking for this for a very, very long time. Library book sale, yes. Okay, we've got the last one. How did it get here? It's crazy. The 10th Gift by Jane Johnson. This follows a girl named Julia Levette. She receives this gift. It's a book of exquisite 17th century embroidery patterns belonging to a woman named Catherine Anne Tregana. But in the margins are these diary entries, and they're very, very faintly written in. And they reveal that Catherine, or Cat, had actually been stolen from their Cornish church in 1625 by Muslim pirates and taken on a brutal voyage to Morocco to be auctioned off as slaves. I just thought that was really interesting, and what a different kind of storyline. So I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. There aren't a heck of a lot of, you know, quotes from other authors or anything on here. I truly don't know if this is going to be a hit or not, but it just sounded very intriguing. I honestly love it when anyone ever gets a book or a diary and they have to like unravel the mystery. I love it when main characters are the detective, essentially. So yes, we shall see. Those are all of the historical fiction books that I picked up recently. I'm really, really excited about them all. Let me know if there's any of these in particular that you've read that you've just loved, because I love to know when I've picked up some good books. So I will see you next time. Bye, guys.